The Porsche 911, arguably the most iconic sports car in the world. Since 1963, this sleek rear-engine masterpiece has defied engineering norms and captured hearts across the globe. Its silhouette is unmistakable, its driving dynamics unforgettable. But, believe it or not, there was a moment in history when the 911 nearly vanished, erased from Porsche's future, and with it, possibly the brand's very soul. Imagine a world where the infamous 993, 996 or even the later 991s never existed. But to understand how this almost came to be, we need to look at the 911 and why the executives in charge came to believe that it was the problem. When the Porsche 911 debuted in 1963, it didn't just launch a new sports car. This was a car that broke the rules and somehow it worked. Where other sports cars of the era had engines in the front, Porsche infamously put it in the back, hanging right over the rear axle. That made a 911 look like nothing else on the road and drive like nothing else either. Powered by an air-cooled flat-six engine, the early 911s were light, mechanical and raw, and people fell in love with it, especially the simplicity, its shape and its spirit. It had character and a soul. On the track, it punched far above its weight as well, dominating rallies and endurance races. The balance may have been tricky, but in the right hands, being extremely competitive all around the world in many global championships. But unfortunately, not everyone was a fan. The rear engine layout, it made the 911 notoriously difficult to drive at the limit, lift off mid-corner and it could snap into oversteer fast. And some people just couldn't handle it or understand it, with some calling it dangerous and outright unpredictable. And through the 70s, the 911 evolved even more. It got more power and was also turbocharged by 1975. Some of course found this thrilling, but others didn't, and as you can imagine how it got its name, the Widowmaker. Critics said it was old-fashioned and no longer safe for everyday drivers, and that's how this story came to be, with Porsche executives believing that they needed to cater their cars to a bigger market, instead of the driving enthusiasts that they had been known to build themselves around. And we can see how these critics damaged Porsche's reputation as a company, affecting them massively and bringing them to this decision. So, to set the scene, the year was 1980. Porsche, the pride of German automotive excellence, posted its first financial loss in company history. Quality control issues plagued the brand, sales in America, a key market, had slumped. The company's executives looked to pivot, and the solution? Cancel the 911. Yes, the very car that built Porsche's reputation was deemed too old-fashioned, too costly, and too difficult to drive for modern tastes. In its place, Porsche would push forward with its newer front-engine models, like the 928 and 944. More practical, more conventional, supposedly more promising. But the soul of Porsche was slipping away. Then came Peter Schutz, Porsche's first American CEO, an engineer by trade and a car enthusiast at heart. In his early days at the company, Schutz noticed something unsettling. The passion was fading, employee morale was at an all-time low, the shadow of the cancelled 911 loomed over Stuttgart and every employee under Porsche. As Schutz went on to say, while the car could be temperamental at times, at least it had character. That's what people loved most about it. And on the wall in Porsche's chief engineer's office, a chart laid out of all Porsche's future models. The timelines for the 928 and 944 stretched years ahead. The 911s ended far before the others, sat ending at 1982. So, Schutz did something legendary, and what would change history forever. He grabbed a marker and without saying a word, drew the 911's timeline straight across the chart, onto the wall and out the door of the office. And stood in the office was the chief engineer, astonished and bewildered. Schutz stood there and asked, "Do we understand each other?" And the engineer, with just a simple nod, agreed. So with that one bold stroke, the 911 was back, and back for good. By 1985, Porsche's earnings had skyrocketed. Schutz's gamble paid off, big time. The 911 not only survived, it thrived. Fast forward to May 2017, Porsche built its 1 millionth 911. The car had become more than a model, it was a movement, and a display of passion for the rear-engine sports car had never been bigger. Today, SUVs like the Cayenne dominate Porsche's sales, but the 911, that's the heart, the heritage, the halo. Imagine if it had been cancelled in the 1980s. There'd be no GT3 RS, no Turbo S, no Nürburgring lap records, no posters on the walls of millions of fans of this iconic car. In trying to fix the future, Porsche nearly erased its past. One man refused to let that happen. And thanks to Peter Schutz, the legend lives on. Thanks very much for watching. and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm sure we're all grateful that this car got the future it deserved. But don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.